everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrud.
Good morning, friends.
Maddie.
Yeah, AJ was sick of being the shortest one on the podcast, so we invited Martino on.
There it is.
Thank you, Maddie. Good morning.
It's 6 a.m. You didn't think I was going to take an easy shot at you?
No. This is par for the course. This is every conversation on any platform and any form of communication. This is what Maddie does to me. So
that is a cold-hearted lie. That's not what our text messages are like.
Well, let the record show Madison's not a tall man either.
And he doesn't look tall at the moment either. Like he's taking
I'm
up the bottom third
slouching.
of the...
I'm also like a quarter inch taller than AJ, but it's a quarter inch.
Which is not an impressive height to claim, by the way.
No.
Just so everyone knows, the only tall person on this podcast is Oliver.
Yeah, I'm assuming me, Martino, and AJ are all relatively the same height. Well, Martino might not.
When I found out Ollie was like 6'4", I was still stunned. It still stuns me.
It's kind of mind-blowing,
Yeah, so many people were freaked out and they were like, well, what? How are you? Maldini's really tall. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's just it. I'd beat him for a header if it came to it. But anyway, yeah. So boys, 4 of us here for this one. It's a belter. Like, shit, I've never seen 2 such contrasting moods within a few days. Like we had a manager who was going to be sacked, and now he's like the king of the city. So here we are. But yeah, this is going to be a brilliant one. We're going to recap the Liverpool defeat to begin the Champions League campaign. Of course, Sunday night's derby against Inter, which, holy shit, we won one finally. Amazing. And then we've got a game against Lecce on Friday, which is kind of after the Lord's Mayor show. But here we are. Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to say thank you to our Substack founding members, but I can't find the list. There it is. Des Windsor McGlynn, Tito, Matt Morris, Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ Mats, Luke Villano, Raul Escobar, Jack Carlo Fassi, Nasser, Merlin Flinker, Derek Favretto, Heavenly 13, Mike Schulz, JT Physio, Tarek, Marco Vilea, and Roberto Racinos. Thank you for all of the support that you show us over on the Substack. The number of subscribers that we have is increasing by the week, and we know it hasn't been the best start to the season in terms of results, so genuine thank you for the support. In terms of recent publishes on there was a special derby edition of the newsletter, which kind of broke down everything that you need to know post the result, of course, and some things that you might have missed. The longer bonus article that Isaac did was on the return of the growth decree and what that means for Milan. And then there was another bonus article post the Liverpool game, which was a bit of a breakdown of the shambles that we found ourselves in, given, at that point it looked like we had a head coach who was basically on the verge of being fired. Some comparisons in there with Gianpaolo and stuff like that. You might say that's not aged very well, but here we are, and that is the nature of sports. And the bonus podcast last week, I wasn't present for. AJ and Maddie, you took the reins for that one and did the ballad of Paulo Fonseca, where I presume you went into like everything that was going wrong to that point and how he's not the right man to lead us forward. We're going to be humiliated in the derby, and yeah,
sounds about right. Yeah,
yeah,
roughly what it was. Yeah, but definitely give it a listen. Still, please
do, because the time.
Then you can laugh at me, and that's everyone's favorite thing to do is laugh at Madison and I. So just listen to it.
That's honestly pretty factual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do the first part of this, which is the negative part of this, which is the Liverpool Champions League fixture. So, look, we'd beaten Venezia 4-0, but that was a result that we all acknowledged was, it wasn't one that we had to work particularly hard for. And we came into this Liverpool game knowing that it was a much better litmus test of where we're at, and if the players were taking on Fonseca's ideas, if we were able to step up on the big occasion against a Liverpool side who had just lost 1-0 against Nottingham Forest, but prior to that they'd done well under Arne Slot, and we know the attacking firepower that they have. We know that there was going to be broadly a continuation of the way that they played under Klopp, and then it would be a tough game. We'd have to be good if we were to get a result. Certainly started well. 3 minutes in, Pully puts us 1-0 up. That was a lovely goal. Morata dropping in, little flick around the corner. Yeah.
It was his second chance, too. He missed the first one, right? Or he took two.
No, that was the derby.
Yeah.
Well, we had broken before the goal that we scored, but it was called back for offside, so it wouldn't have counted. But we had kind of opened Liverpool up inside the opening 60 seconds, and the warning signs were there for Liverpool, I guess. But that was a lovely assist from Morata. I say assist because it actually took place about 40, 50 yards from goal. And then Pulisic just walks it, and he's like, is anyone going to put me under pressure? No, nobody. Fine. Right-footed shot, bang. Bottom left corner past Alisson. Did you think that was, the launching moment? Yeah. Did you think
I did.
that was it?
100%. I went into that game fully expecting us to get smoked, to lose, to have zero chances, to look terrible. 3 minutes in, we're up, and I'm fully believing we're winning the whole competition. It did not last long. There was, shocker, a cross that led to a header, and they scored, 25 minutes in, something like that, pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was it Konate at the first one?
Konate, the first one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then not long after that, essentially the exact same thing. I think this one came from a corner, though. Van Dijk scores a header again, completely unmarked. Nobody jumped with him. Really bad defending from our part. And then we were losing at halftime. And we didn't look good the rest of the game.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to look competitive after we scored first. I was like, all right, we can continue to press, continue to counter. We showed that we can score against them, and that stopped after 3 minutes. So the rest of the 87 minutes were just as depressing as the 4 games before that, except for Valencia. And I was like, this might be it for Fonseca. But, it's Liverpool, and I hate them, but they're really good. So,
yeah, I think a lot of people thought Fonseca was done after this game, that it didn't matter how the derby was going to go, that he was just done, and they were just not giving a new manager the derby and his opening game to be kind, and just give Fonseca the derby so that it's on him and not whoever replaces him. Obviously, we'll get to that, but yeah, it went from bad to worse because then Mignon got injured. Cut himself. He got a scratch. Like, it was a very weird injury. The way he reacted was like, it looked like he tore an ACL. He put the shirt over his head, and I'm thinking season's over. But he was fine.
I thought people thought that he was just exaggerating his injury at that one point because Teo was spitting up blood. So he was just trying to buy him some time.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he was just trying to buy him some time so he could get back on the field because they were just down their best defensive player. I think that first goal that we conceded was just pathetic. That starts with Calabria again, just late on the rotation and conceding a foul like that outside the area. Can't draw up a worse player to give a free kick to in that situation with Trent. The communication and breakdown, I think a lot of people were talking zonal marking on these set pieces, which even to me, even if you want to talk about that and point the finger at Fonseca, those 2 goals are all on the players. The lack of marking on the biggest aerial threats on the pitch was pathetic. Yeah, I think Fofana initially had picked up Konate on that goal, and then the second that he bails on him to go to the near post, nobody picks up Konate. I think Tomori comes in incredibly late, and by the time he reaches him, Konate's making contact with the ball, and it's in the back of the net. And those are the types of goals that we concede that everybody says, how are we not preventing these? This is defending one-on-one. This shouldn't be like, oh my God, look at this amazing goal by Salah. And he hit the crossbar twice. So we were very fortunate to not get out of hand like that. And then again on Van Dijk, I'm not sure who covered him or didn't cover him.
Pavlovic.
Was it Pavlovic? Yeah,
Pavlovic was in front of him, so...
Pavlovic is a roller coaster of a player so far.
Yeah, he is.
His great moments are great, and then all of a sudden he's just spiraling out of control. So, yeah, listen, we could have prevented a lot of them. I think, what was the only chance we had? I think Leao hit the crossbar post at one point, but we didn't.
Leao in 96th minute.
Yeah, exactly. So, what? It was from inside the first 5 minutes, and then we couldn't stabilize the game. We were just overrun. Liverpool's a really bad matchup for us. with the way that they play. And people were a little bit like, oh, they lost to Forest. People who watched that game, like, Liverpool had their chances on the counter. They just couldn't finish. Forest was only up 1-0. So the second that they scored, they were being very compact, something that we are incapable of doing so far in the formation that we were running. So listen, completely outplayed in the first one. Thank God we got it over with.
To build on that, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but this is the momentum from the game. We're the red team. Yeah, so that's 3rd minute and 96th minute and nothing else.
Well,
so we were in control. So
the stats, right? The most even stat is possession, which was 49-51 according to what we use for our graphic. But XG, they had 2.74 to our 0.54. They had 5 big chances to our 0, 23 shots to 8, 11 shots on target to 2. By every single metric, this was a domination. And the mad thing is, I don't care if we lose to Liverpool in the open field. You know, if they're just far too good for us going forward on the day. First of all, we have to generate something at the other end, and we were incapable of getting out of our own half. That was really depressing to watch when we were a goal down. But to completely throw away an early lead, which kind of shifts the balance, certainly more towards our favour, because we can then protect the result and do what we're good at, which is quick breaks, basically, at this point. To throw that away with 2 set-piece goals is, like, unforgivable, you know, and for them to be in such similar fashion, you know, like I say, I don't mind if Liverpool blitz us, if Salah scores a couple of unstoppable goals. You know, they've got forward options that we would kill for, to be frank. But yeah, to do it like that just hurt. And Szoboszlai got the 3rd goal as well, and it was an open net tap in from a few yards out. And Lorenzo Torriani, who'd come on, there was nothing he could have done. He made a brilliant stop prior to that. Like, they had chance after chance, and it could have been a far worse scoreline, but for the woodwork and but for Maignan making a couple of saves before he went off as well. Like, I genuinely wouldn't have felt disgusted had we lost that game 5-1, to be honest. And that was just
it's the only time we got to play them in the new format. We don't have to play
no
them
rematch
again,
at Anfield.
Oh,
nice.
Easier match coming up. Don't worry.
Yeah,
unless we draw them in knockouts.
Well,
yeah,
but I don't
that's possible.
Maddie.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm you guys said it. You guys just jinxed us. So thanks.
He said it. You're right though. Torriani didn't look that bad coming on.
Oh.
It's a very big situation. Those are a lot of minutes, and you know, we got a league-wide table now. Goal differential is substantial when it comes to that kind of stuff. I know we're down 2 in that category, but you know, you have to stop the bleeding at some point. It definitely could have gotten out of hand, and the way things have been going for us, at least we could take some solace in saying that we only conceded 1 goal in the second half. Again, could have been a lot worse. We were very fortunate.
Yeah, I think it was kind of sad in a way, like the whole occasion for me, because they only sold 59,000 tickets. A game like this should be a guaranteed sellout, but the poor start to the season, coupled with the fact that they have hiked the prices up for Champions League games, which is a whole separate debate, but fans just said, no, we're not coming to, you can't charge such high prices and put such a shit product on the field. There absolutely should have been over 70,000 there for that game. It is one of these showpiece European ties in terms of two names and the history of the fixture and stuff like that. And then you've got Zlatan coming and doing some ridiculous pre-match interview about lions and kittens, and then he started sort of going at it with Boban because Boban had said that he didn't understand his role. He also went at it with a Swedish TV journalist apparently too. So like when you need a calm head to settle everything before a big game and to kind of to pour cold water on the flames that are surrounding the club with the toxic atmosphere and stuff, it just didn't do it. It sort of made him look like he was rattled a little bit, and like the things that were being said were getting to him. And again, he's just always going to speak in riddles. I understand that he is going to joke and try and like, he's an entertainer at the end of the day, and I get that, but sometimes it's just not what you need. And I don't know who else you could send up, but
you know, keep in mind he also just started this position like 3-4 months ago, right? This is his
Yeah, it was like
first.
December last
Yeah,
year.
Was it
December
really?
of last year.
Yeah.
Or are you
Damn,
talking
okay.
about his new role as headline?
No, my point's null and void, so I'm not even
Okay.
going to say it.
I get it, but also like from the club's point of view, I say the club because technically he's a Redbird employee, but
Yes.
you know what you're getting when you bring him back, and I don't think he's ever going to be somebody who faces the camera and just says things deadpan as they are, like unfortunately, kind of like Furlani does. And Maldini sort of did that, but he had a couple of moments where he broke out of his more restrained words and said things like "We need investment now" and things like that. Whereas Ibra is just like pure putting on the facade kind of thing, and I think it wound fans up a little bit, especially when we go out and put in that performance. It just turned the whole thing into a little bit of a circus, a clown. I think one paper called it a clown show or something, just the entire night. And I get that because these are the nights that we should relish, and instead afterwards, you're reading the papers the next morning, and it's like, wow, they're all literally just joking about how bad everything is at the club, and that left us obviously in dreading the derby, and then all the rumours come out about Fonseca's future being uncertain, and that even a win might not be enough to save him in the derby. So it was a dark night, like it was a genuinely dark night. And again, as I said, if it were just a game where Liverpool had been the better side than us, they'd taken their chances and maybe we hadn't, then I think you can stomach it a bit more than everything in the build-up, and then to be utterly dominated. Not great, but look, there's plenty more games to come. There's easier games in the Champions League too. It won't be the match that defines us, just as Man City dropping points against Inter doesn't all of a sudden knock them out of contention, for example. Like, we know it's the back end that the easier games come, but it would have been nice to pick up a result, especially after going a goal ahead. Shall we do tops and flops and then move on to the nice one that we have to talk about? Top for me, Pulisic. Brilliant goal. Took it fantastically. One of the, I don't want to say the few players, because some of them ran like headless chickens, but put in a real shift again. And yeah, I think he's one of the few who can walk off the field thinking I couldn't have done much more than that.
Yeah, I agree. It's Pulisic. I think he's our best player by far right now. At least since his arrival, no one's been better. Yeah, it's him.
I have no question that it's him. So,
Shout out Toriani though. I'll give him that. But
yeah,
it's Pulisic.
Yeah. And the flop, well, you're picking from a few here. Pavlovic all over the place. Absolutely. Like, he is so erratic. And in certain games, that's going to be an asset to us. And in other games, I think you just need a more composed head. And I think that he might look back with a bit of regret at not playing Gabbia for this game. And I know that's with the benefit of hindsight of how things went in the derby, but against Venezia, he certainly didn't disgrace himself. In fact, he was one of the better performers. But yeah, I just think in a game like that, to have two very aggressive high-line defenders who rely on sort of inciting one-on-one duels, it was only going to go one way, and we really struggled with it. But I'm going to go with Calabria because not good. That's it. Just shit. Like, not good at all.
Yeah, I was going to go with the right back position as a whole. Obviously, Calabria came off injured, and his replacement didn't do much better. And I think that's going to be a constant theme for our flops this season. So, if you get tired of hearing Calabria / Emerson, don't get mad at us.
I was going to do the defensive line as a whole because 2 set-piece goals, not good.
Yeah.
I don't want to go full agreement and everything, but like Ali's point is, Pavlovic erratic. That's like okay on a level from a newer player in a newer team. At his age, Calabria, what's the excuse for committing that foul that led to the goal? With clear
That's
yellow
very
card.
on par for him. I feel like whenever a player gets by him, his first instinct is foul him.
And it wasn't even like some sort of, like physical, like trying to bully him off the ball. He goes in for a slide tackle and completely mistimes it. And then he even started arguing too.
Yeah.
To like, oh, like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't do it. Like,
the ball.
Come on, buddy. It's not close. You're putting us in a dangerous position now. I think the midfield as well. It was really poor in this game. And not to rag on Fofana, and I know he's getting a lot of criticism. It's hard to kind of adapt and play in a role that doesn't suit your best qualities, but they were completely overrun. I know the possession kind of looks like it did, but did we ever feel like we were in control of that match at any point? To me, it's a no. So I would point in that position because they didn't really pick up the slack in that double pivot there. That was the real negative when you put Reinders up top. We didn't have that great coverage and in possession, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a rude awakening in Europe. But anyway, let's move on. Let's do the real game. That was just a warm up act. Right, be honest. Before the game kicked off, because we did our predictions in last week's episode, of course, but things changed after the Liverpool game. How much of a bloodbath did you think that this was going to be?
Martino, what did I think it was going to be?
Well, did you think that because you thought that, or you thought that because you wanted to go against what I thought?
I'm not answering that question.
Exactly. But Maddie did say 2-1. He called me a negative Nancy, and rightfully so. I don't really care. Everywhere I was going, like work, talking with friends or whatever, everybody said I was being too pessimistic. But to my point, everybody was thinking this. Inter again coming off that really good match against City away, and you just kind of knew that they had mixed results in the league with the way that they were playing and just overall the results themselves. You thought, okay, this is their get right game. Lautaro still hasn't scored a goal this season, so it just felt like you ever see that picture of that monkey who looks like he's just closing his eyes awaiting death with that sheet? That's what it kind of felt like heading into this one. So even after the Pulisic goal to open, I was like, all right, I'll wait and see, because the Lazio game and the Liverpool game, we strike first, and then it's very much turbulence after the fact, which it kind of was almost. But I thought it was going to be a 4-1 beatdown, and we were going to lose poorly.
Yeah, I think that's a logical way to look at it after we go up, knowing how we've been this season. I don't do that most of the time when we score first. That's it for me. I'm full in. So I lost my mind, and I was like, okay, we're winning this thing. And then once they scored, I thought, okay, here we go again.
We've shaken the beast,
and that's what makes it worse, because obviously we didn't lose this game, but for me, like, I go into these games saying, all right, yeah, it's foregone conclusion. We're going to get smoked 4-0. We might get one if we're lucky. And then we score in what was it this time? The 11th minute, something like that.
10th,
and I'm thinking
10th. Yeah.
Okay, we're winning it. We're doing this. We got everything. And then they equalize, and it's just like, I already started rock bottom, but then I convinced myself to the top, and now I'm dropping off the cliff again. Thank God that didn't happen this time. Weirdly, I still felt like we were in it after they scored. Typically when another team equalizes against us, they hit that second one real quick. Like we collapse, we crumble. But we stayed in it, and I think a big part of that was Gabbia. I think he was on it. I mean, he was rock solid. I know we announced it as a 4-4-2 post game. Fonseca said it was the same system. It was just he called Morata a 9.5, which I thought was a funny way of saying it, because he kind of was. He basically was just the second striker, but also played a bit more deeper, so not quite an attacking mid. But off the ball, we were a 4-3-3, which is something everyone's been asking for. That was really nice to see. It's almost like this guy does have some tactics, and it might be good. It's working now. The changes were obviously moving RLC off the field in place of another striker, and putting Gabbia in. A player that everyone kind of wrote off years ago as an academy product. And then we had so many good center backs. We shipped him out last season. And then due to an injury crisis, obviously had to recall his loan. The rest is history. He's been fantastic ever since. But even then, the start of this season, he's kind of written off again. We signed Pavlovic. Everyone's hyped. Me personally, it was probably the one I was most excited for, about the jersey. And he's been up and down, very shaky. His highs are high and his lows are lows. And Fonseca made a game time decision to not play him, to not start him. And it paid off, and Gabbia was a stone wall at the back line. I mean, obviously he even scored, which is huge, scored the winner. Has that now iconic photo, but his defensive game was probably the most impressive part of the whole night, honestly. I mean, the way he shut everyone down was incredible. Couldn't have asked for a better performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, Fonseca came in and made changes during the derby. I feel like that's something we've been asking Pioli to do for the past 5 derbies.
Outside of that 3-5-2, he did that one time.
Yeah, and
benching Leo.
Yeah, eventually out in that one.
Going and making changes in a game that you're supposed to be fired after is a really ballsy move. But he showed that, he's like, I'm still here, and the players obviously respect him. I was fired up on Friday. I texted Oliver and AJ, I'm ready for Monday. Like we are going to lay this out. And then I woke up this morning. I'm like, I'm not even angry anymore. It's going to be a great podcast.
I know. Yeah. I was like, do I really want to wake up right now?
It's so funny. Just the mood and watching highlights after the game.
Oh yeah.
Usually when we lose, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to see them yet.
Yeah. So. But I mean, look, and he also benched Teo and Liao when they had a bad game. I feel like there were multiple times in the Pioli era where Teo deserved to be benched a few times, and that takes a lot to do that. So he's earned himself his keep, and he'll be here till maybe December.
Yeah, I don't know if benching Liao and Teo was good in that game.
It's a wake-up call, man.
But
just because you are the star players, when you're lazy and you're walking around, get off the field.
I agree. I mean,
cool, you were the highest earner on the team. That doesn't mean you deserve to start every game.
The Teo stuff was bad from the Parma game. I totally understood where he was coming from.
Yeah, that was horrible.
We literally had speed statistics on how bad he was about it.
Yeah.
What was he, 9 kilometers
on both goals,
whatever? Yeah. A question for you guys, and even just Ali. Fonseca basically said publicly after the Liverpool match that Fofana and Reinders can't play next to each other, and then he comes out and they're basically partners in the midfield almost. I thought centrally we looked great because usually we just have a gulf of space for the opposition to kind of take advantage of, and that was never the case in this game, which was such a sigh of relief because you always kind of get that anxiety when Inter hit us on the counter. They're like, okay, they're completely controlling everything. Like, how are we going to stop this? Mm-hmm. I never got that sense. And that's kind of what Torgru was talking about, was even after they equalized, it didn't feel like it was this utter domination from them. It felt like we always had our chances throughout the game and we really had opportunities to score. And I think the mentality was great too. Because shout out to Morata, I love the energy that he brought. Maybe not the most productive and prolific type of forward in this game, but every single little detail, the way he went in for challenges, sticking up for his teammate. I think when Pulisic got pushed over by Bastoni, just that type of fire. It was brought up, like Matt and I were talking about it, like, you go down in Liverpool, where's that sort of fire and desire that you would want from someone in a match like that? Because we talk about the magnitude against Liverpool. We brought this energy to the derby that we haven't seen since we last won 2-1 when Giroud got that brace on the way to the Scudetto. It always kind of felt like we just laid down like dogs and just took the beating. And this one was just, there was so much pride involved in general on all fronts. So I was very happy with this.
I feel like people kind of undervalue Morata's leadership. I think he really is a leader, and it's something that I doubted during when we signed him. I thought, whatever. It's just a guy who's kind of been there, but never great. And I've been very pleasantly surprised with him as a person, as a player. Like you said, sticking up for his teammates, working for the ball no matter where it's at, dropping in deep. He's obviously scored a great goal too. He
been ruined fantastic. His relationship to join the team. So,
Yeah. That's what I said when we were watching it. I was like, okay, this guy divorced his wife to play here. Like, I'm gonna trust anything he does. He's
He
doing
loves
it for
the
us.
club
better
more
play
than
with
the mother of
goddamn
his
heart if you
children.
left your wife.
Yeah, it's like that's a move for sure. Another thing Martino said, the midfield, Tijani was impeccable. He obviously got man of the match in Serie A. While I'm gonna go with someone different, I do think he's a very close second. Fofana, I don't think it was as good. I have been let down by both Fofana and Pavlovic signings so far. I don't think Fofana's been terrible, but out of the two in the midfield, he's very clearly been the second best. And that's okay. One thing I do think was interesting from Fonseca, Jesus, I forgot the coach's name all of a sudden.
At least you can say it right.
Yeah, we didn't make any substitutions until the 78th minute, which is very late to do so. And I liked it. I thought it showed that, like, look, these are the guys. They're doing a good job. There's no reason to change it just because there's some tired legs. Like, I think at this point, Inter had already made 4 subs, so they were kind of changing it up, going all out. And it's not like they were bad subs. They brought on Darmian, they brought on Fratesi, they brought on Zielinski. Like, they have very good depth.
It was Fratese's birthday as well. He's like a boyhood Inter fan.
So Gabbia got the dunk on him for his birthday.
Good
for him.
Oh, it's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I hate that guy and I hate his face. I hate DeMarco, but he scored whatever. I just love, like, the ones that are
hilarious.
And Bastoni, like the ones that are actual Inter fans. I don't know why. I know why, but I just fucking hate them so much. Yeah. And it was fantastic that we were able to celebrate at the end. I'm going to be totally honest.
Sorry, one more thing for me. I think when we had the non-existent penalty given to us, that was partially the nail in the coffin, because at this moment, the momentum had already swung back in our favor, and I think Inter expected us to crumble once they eventually scored, like we have, the last 6 games in a row. And when we stuck our form together, it worried them, and they started to crumble because we didn't. And then we had a penalty given to us. Obviously, it was reviewed and rightly overturned. It was never a penalty. It was very clearly shoulder. But I think just having the ref give that on the field made him think, like, damn, nothing's going our way. Like, we can't get anything done. And you saw a huge momentum swing from there. I mean, nothing went in their favor. In fact, they got multiple yellow cards after that moment. And then obviously the late winner from Gabbia. But it shows how every little decision on the field impacts the future of the game,
Especially a game of this magnitude where it's all about incidents. And right decision, by the way, to overturn the penalty. That must be said.
And I think overall it was good refereeing, minus Bastoni not getting an early yellow card for shoving Pulisic down. Like, I mean, Pulisic's looking down on the ground on the ball, and you can't do that. You can't do that anywhere. So I think it was overall good refereeing to let him play for the most part, but that's the one change I would have made.
That was just American hate.
It always is, man.
Yeah, it's fair. I wouldn't have given a yellow for that. So when I saw the 4-2-4, 4-4-2 stuff coming out on the eve of the game, because I think it was Sky and Gazzetta both had it, like, holy shit, are we really going to go with the 4-4-2? I then quite literally went to bed that night thinking to myself, how is this going to work? What is he thinking? And I couldn't come up with, I thought it won't be a 4-4-2. It'll be some kind of, veiled system. I could not for the life of me think of how it was going to work, like how it would provide either a neutralization of Inter's 3-5-2 or even a system whereby we'd get on top in the game, especially switching. So you take a man out of midfield. I thought that's dangerous because they've overrun us down the midfield in recent derbies. And if anything, we were shouting to play a proper 4-3-3, a flat 4-3-3, rather than someone further forward. But then to sort of add that extra man to the front line, and I'm thinking to myself, well, what Inter have been happy for us to do in recent derbies, under Simone Inzaghi specifically, is have the ball, is for us to get overconfident in their half and think, oh, they're letting us play here. And then they just batter us at the other end. You look at that 5-1 game, it was an absolute masterclass in counter-attacking football. They sit deep, they sit compact, and then when we give the ball over, which we often do because we're not the best side at keeping the ball, they would knock it at the other end and take advantage of the one-on-ones upfield. I foresaw this being a final desperate roll of the dice from Fonseca to just try and play an attacking team and just see if we could get a positive result or even lose in a high-scoring fashion. So he could go out in a bit of a blaze of glory rather than do the opposite, which would be to potentially switch to like a 5-3-1-1 and just hope that we make it difficult for them, but probably lose 1-0 anyway. And everyone's like, what the fuck was that? You've just thrown away. So, look, I give him credit for the bravery of doing it. I still actually don't really know how it worked. But one thing I can say did work very, very well, and I think it's what contributed to the entire team behind them looking more solid, including the midfielders especially, is having the front four pressing. Because what that did is it completely disrupted Inter's attempts to build up. I mean, they looked completely rattled. Like, I think that... I think that, like, for as much as Inter have been labelled a counter-attacking side, they actually play some really, really good stuff. A couple of goals that they scored against Atalanta in that 4-0, I'm looking at thinking, we could never do that. This is still the best team in the league. We need to be really careful when we play them. So when you moving moving the wingers further upfield, and they were pressing with a bit more intensity, Morata was the one who sat on a man and basically meant that they couldn't play down the middle, which protected Reinders and Fofana a bit more. And then you had Tammy who was pressing ball side, so whichever way they were trying to move. It worked, and they couldn't feed. So we basically gave them the flanks, and they can still do damage down the wings. They did for their equaliser, really, with DeMarco linking up, getting the ball back and scoring.
Gifted it.
Yeah, that was a poor goal to concede, and then you think, okay, maybe they've cracked it. They're just going to push one of the wing backs up, and we're going to be overloaded on that side. But it was like bend, don't break. And Maignan made that save from Thuram. There were a couple of moments where they did get us down the middle, but generally, we reduced it to being a bit of an ugly game when they were on the ball. And that's all you can really ask to do because they are still a very good team. We saw how resolutely they defended against Man City, and they also had their chances as well to potentially steal what would have been a famous win. But yeah, it was the pressure from the front that did it. It basically took out half of their team, and it panicked them a little bit. And I think Simone Inzaghi is probably actually under a bit more pressure than he's been led on by the Inter-influenced media because the results have not been good for them. You know, we, with that win, went level on points with them, and we've been a fucking shit show so far this season, you know?
Can I just, like, mention something with that real quick? I think I mentioned after the game, and we had some really bad misses in this one, too. Mm-hmm. So I think we're actually even, like, letting off on Inter a little bit here. We could have had 4 or 5. I think Inter were... Maybe you could make the case for one more with the Maignan save on Thuram that you mentioned. We have the most goals scored in the league, and we have missed quite a few chances this year, and our defense has been shambles. And the interesting thing is with Torino being first and Juve kind of struggling with scoring goals, a lot of sides have been showing sort of their deficiencies. And when Inter, it is very funny, and you could see it in the Inzaghi tenure. They're either phenomenal in one competition and they stutter in another or falter in another. We're kind of starting to see those results early on in the season. Really, Atalanta is their only dominant victory in Serie A. They've really, like, even let off in that first one. Lautaro's in a really bad drought right now. I think he has like 1 in his last 17 games. Yeah. And that's just damning. And I was looking it up. He's not quite where Rafa was last year with the scoring, but Rafa's also assisting more during that time frame. So just to give a little bit more credit to our guy. But my goodness, the finishing, Okafor.
No, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, the best part is that Gabbia gets to keep the winner in the 2-1 emphatic fashion like that. That was the best point that someone made to me because anyone else in this, if Rafa missed that chance Okafor did, we would never hear the end of it. And Okafor's been a great super sub, but oh my god, Chukwueze, my poor boy, get robbed of an assist.
Yeah. That was a bad one to miss.
The sideline cam is the funniest thing ever.
Yes.
When you
The
see
top of,
Fonseca, you
yeah.
see Tammy, you see Leao, all go, let's go. And then they just throw their hands up like,
They were like,
"Fuck."
just end
And
it.
then the
Can you
whistle.
end it now?
Fonseca turns around and he's like, no, how has he missed that? And then instantly to the fourth official, he's like, that must be it. That's got to be game over anyway.
Tammy
And,
did the
so
same
funny.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
honestly,
that was great.
the end of the game scenes were brilliant. Also, when the goal went in as well, great to see everybody, running down there and like we've been on the other end of that so many times, when the Inter players running down and it's like, fucking hell, it's happened again. This time it was our time, and I just think that you can never underestimate the importance of a derby win, no matter how it comes, but especially with it being one that proved that we can go toe-to-toe with supposedly and factually last season the best team in Italy and overrun them like we did. And as you said, Martino, like it could have been far more. We had 6 big chances to their 1. There was the Leao header, which I think if he places that couple of yards either side, it's a brilliant goal. And then the Leao one where he arguably should have squared it.
I think Tammy and Pulisic were with it. When I was rewatching that one, Tammy actually really had a difficult angle to play it to Pulisic, so it wasn't even like necessarily like the wrong decision.
Oh yes,
Leao is just his ball striking ability at times. I think he skied another chance too. He wasn't truthfully awful, but this is what happens when he can't create at the level that he does. The glaring misses just become that much greater. And by the way, the Reinders pass on the set piece, and then also even on the Tammy scuffed shot. Oh my goodness! Like you got the full display of how good he really can be. I think some of his passes this season have been incredible.
Yeah.
Running one touch.
My question now is this new pseudo 4-4-2, 4-2-4, 4-2.5.51, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Was this just a Hail Mary, or is this the new system going forward?
You have to play it again.
Why? Yeah, you don't fix what isn't broken. And I think, do you know what this? I'm not going to say it actually, but I just look at the game next and think, okay, we could maybe get away with it again. I'm not gonna predict that we
today,
completely.
I think.
Oh, Lecce do.
Right. Lecce have a Coppa Italia against Sassuolo, so they're going to be on
most
shorter
of the teams,
rest.
And they play us on Friday.
Yeah,
correct.
That doesn't seem very fair for them. Do we have a Champions League game next week?
Next week, the first.
As the gamers say, skill diff. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to play Coppa Italia. Not my fault. You knew the
Napoli's
rules.
doing it.
He just got
true.
True.
Yeah. One thing I really liked was Pulisic after his goal. Obviously, early on, goes straight to the Inter fans, celebrates in front of them, gets a few drinks thrown at him. Love to see it. He's used to that. Scored in every USA Mexico game, always taunting the Mexican fans, and then he does it with the Inter fans. So it's good. Love to see that. Good old American boy there. The only other thing that I would point out is shocker, Emerson. Awful. Like the goal that we conceded, the amount of times he left DiMarco, the best crosser in the league, wide open with a lifetime to play, and then the actual goal itself, like when he goes in to, I don't even remember who passed it to
didn't
DiMarco,
need to
but
press Lautaro.
Lautaro did it.
He was already double covered, and then he slides in, and he should have got the block. He really should have. It was right there, but he misses it. So then DiMarco's wide open. It's like, what are you fucking doing, guy?
This is what happens when you make discount signings.
Late rotation.
Well, he wasn't. He was expensive for who he is. Yeah.
There was a switch right there. And the way how he rotated so late to DiMarco to get the ball in the first place, to play it to Lautaro. And then just the lack of late rotation. I know everybody likes to look at the still image where Tomori's he's standing at no man's land. I get it. It's always a bad look. But, that starts with the right back again. How many? I forget what the statistic is. The amount of goals that we concede this season are coming through the right side.
Been all of them.
We just have no choice but to do anything. Jimenez looked good yesterday. I'll say that.
That was a really. It was a bad goal to concede, and you think that like the familiar naivety is going to come back into it, and that Inter would find another gear from there. And they never really did. And I thought Simone Inzaghi's words after the game were pretty honest, where he was like, we just didn't seem up for it. Like, we didn't seem to be able to match their energy, and we were outplayed. It does take something for a manager to say that, and I don't think his words went down particularly well, because they were like, as we would be if we'd lost. We're sick of hearing we were beaten by a better team and shit like that. But just with the way that the momentum of this fixture has been in the last couple of years, the run, well, the toxic atmosphere surrounding the club coming into it. You've got a coach trying something, I would say, very experimental in the hopes that it might produce something that keeps him his job. Just a few days after Inter have gone to play probably the best team in Europe, Manchester City, and got a 0-0 draw, playing so like resolute, everything pointed towards it not going this way, and that's why it's a beautiful fixture. Because even though we lost 6 in a row prior to that, it's the one where you're absolutely convinced that it's going to be 7, where we pull out a performance like this. And I think collectively, I think they deserve praise. There were reports that a couple of things happened in the build-up to the game. On Wednesday, apparently Fonseca took the entire team in for a meeting, lasted over 90 minutes, and he spoke with the players and kind of got their opinion on how things are going, and the defects in the team, the goals we were conceding, what wasn't working, and whether that helped him shape the... I don't know. You'd always prefer a coach who says, I know the best thing for this team, but sometimes it helps to have a bit of input, especially from bigger players, about what they perceive to be going wrong. Then on Friday at Milanello, there was a barbecue, and you can laugh at it and you say, it's like a trivial thing or whatever, but those kind of things, remember Adley with his garden party thing?
I was just going to say, we found a way to replace him, so...
Yeah, Fonseca's just going to be grilling up some meats. But yeah, it was... That sort of thing as well can just raise the atmosphere a little bit, and do you know what, more so than anything, because you're not going to magically walk away after a few ribs and whatever and be like, well, I fucking do these on Sunday night now. But you do, it does sort of take you yeah probably, it does sort of take your mind off everything that's going on in the outside world. So in that sense, it serves a purpose. And yeah, fantastic celebrations at full time. Chuffed to bits for Martino Gabbia. Everybody knows that I championed him as my breakout player 2 years ago. It's happened. It's just come a little bit late, that's all. But in a serious note, grew up on the outskirts of Milan, a place called Busto Arsizio, where a lot of the players still live now. Grew up a fan of the club. He's been really patient. Like, he's come through all of the stages of the youth academy. He has had to be incredibly patient, because there's been a lot of time since he graduated fully to the first team where he really should have had a run of games and just never did. And we always kept signing that centre-back to push him one down the pecking order again. But he came back after that loan to Villarreal, cut it short, emergency basis, was one of the best performers second half of last season. And now, to get a moment like this, it's one that he will never forget. And I'm genuinely just really happy for him. If I could have picked anybody on the field to get that goal, I think it would have been him, just because of what it means. And yeah, the Curva did a pretty fun tifo as well. The best way to try explain it, because it caused a lot of confusion, was essentially like a what would you call it? A tapestry of memes, internet memes. The main one, of course, that was displayed on the main stand being DiCaprio holding the glass, which I'm sure people are familiar with. And then there was another ones like the people shouting and things like that. And next to those were various taunts that Inter fans have used towards us. So 6 in a row, you must be going crazy. Second star before you, things like that. And then at the end, what did it say word for word? I can't remember. It was basically like, these guys think that they're the real ultras. They are the joke of this city. And it was in reference to the fact that Inter didn't even have a tifo, because they're having to basically hold, the Curva Nord are having to hold leadership referendums within them because of infighting among the leading members, which caused one of them to be shot dead. Yeah. So, I thought it was pretty good. It was sort of like, you can say all you want, but at least we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
I liked it. Yeah. I thought it was really good. But just for those who might have seen all the stuff and not realised what it pointed towards, we won the battle in the stands, outsang them all game as well. So yeah, it was amazing. Personally, I had a weird experience for this one. I was watching Liam Gallagher of Oasis in Malta, and it was because there's quite a lot of Italians that live in Malta. I had Milan shirt and bucket hat on, and the there happened to be a Milan fan in front of me and a Milan fan behind me. So they saw the stuff. They wanted a picture and stuff like that. But then just like midway through one of the songs, it flashes up that Gabbia had scored. And you just hear this, yes! And everyone's going fucking berserk.
Incredible,
so, yeah, that was just a surreal moment, you know. But it was brilliant. And look, the suffering ends. We'll wait and see if we can now start a run of 6 in a row. But I'm happy.
Also, another I think positive note was it was reported yesterday. Maybe it was Di Stefano's guy, and how there was no scheduled practice, but a bunch of players showed up in Milanello. Which to me, again, this is just this whole like character and morale thing from this match that I think you immediately see. Just even the players as well at the final whistle, or actually I think it was after the Gabbia goal. I think Emerson and a couple others went to Fonseca and just like hugging him, and it's just like this sigh of relief and weight off of their shoulders that it feels like they could finally get to playing now. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens on Friday, because I think a lot of people are still like, this is sort of this trap game that we have coming up because we're off of this super high. So how do we respond?
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I think there's a good chance we see Gabbia on the national team. Spalletti was in the stands, obviously very happy with his performance. I think everyone is. It'd be hard to deny it. So might see him. I think the next international break is the 12th of October. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, second weekend in October.
Around there.
Around there. Yeah.
So not too far away. Good chance he gets the call up. That'd be huge for him. I don't know if he's had it before or not, but fantastic. And yeah, he's my top and Emerson's my flop. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Gabbia, absolutely brilliant. Man of the match, and got the moment of a lifetime. And Emerson was the one who, in an otherwise pretty solid looking block, he was the one who stood out as being shaky, so it has to be him.
I'm going to go Fonseca as the top, because this guy came in here and changed the entire formation for what could arguably be one of the most important games of his career to date. Not getting fired after 6 games as Milan manager. Flop, I'll go Emerson as well.
Reinders, man of the match. Everyone went the Gabbia route. But Reinders, this is a complete performance. Ball carrying ability, set piece work, creativity. He's just, you could argue he's been our best player to start this year. He's just very, very strong. Flop, I guess you got to go Royale, right? I would even argue Rafa to an extent.
Yeah.
The standard I hold him to. There was opportunities where he had to go one-on-one, and it just seemed like he was a little too timid to try and attack with that. There were moments, of course, that we always see with his brilliance throughout matches, but it's frustrating when you see everybody get in on the action and playing well, and you kind of are just like, was he there at times? And that's the kind of frustrating part with him, as always. I don't usually rag on him like most people do, but relative to his standard, because Royale, I thought, actually bounced back in that second half. It wasn't that poor. And I literally said he had the attention span of a goldfish during that match. So I did critique him, but Rafa, it's just, you're kind of like waiting. He's had a decent start to the season production wise, but the 2 biggest matches, you were kind of like, come on, where are you?
Yeah,
he's got the guy on the left side who's just destroying everyone in big games, right?
He is the guy on the left side.
Right
side.
Right
side.
yeah.
I don't know how you mix that up.
Don't know his left from right.
I think that I wouldn't mix that up.
Honestly, yeah, fair enough.
Let's move on now to the Lecce game, which of course is the Friday one. Let's hope there's no hangover from this, because as mentioned, it is a bit of a banana skin game, because on paper it looks so much simpler than the 2 that we've had prior. And Lecce have not started the season particularly well. They've got 5 points on the board from 5 games. They do play today, and bizarrely they play at 4:00. So I don't know what that's about, if there's a public holiday in Italy or what, but I don't think there is. So they're playing on a Tuesday afternoon. Very strange. I can't imagine there'll be many. Yeah, I can't imagine there'll be many fans there at that particular one. I actually watched Lecce play Huddersfield in pre-season, played them out in Austria, and we beat them. And they didn't look particularly good, and they played a first team in that game. Dorgu kind of ran us ragged, but yeah, they're a relegation candidate. I think I picked them to go down. I think they're going to struggle to score goals. Their results so far this season are kind of interesting, because they lost 4-0 to Atalanta in the first game in the league. This is then they lost 2-0 to Inter, and then they beat Cagliari with 10 men, who were potentially a relegation rival of theirs. Then they got quite an impressive 0-0 draw away against Torino, who are the league leaders. So let's start taking them seriously, right? And then they drew 2-2 with Parma in another game where they had a man sent off in the last round. And then, they play in the Cup today. And then
completely collapsed versus Parma. Those are two stoppage time goals after they were up 2-0.
Yeah,
so again, talk about opposite sides of the spectrum with morale. You go down a man, it's 10v10, you blow a 2-goal lead. Now you have to play on a shortened week where you face Sassuolo, who are always annoying. And they didn't sell a lot of their key players. I think Loriente is still there. And then they have to turn around and play us on Friday. I mean, just anything but 3 is unaccepeptible.
Yeah.
As soon as Oliver said relegation candidate, I knew it was going to be a tough game.
Did you shudder?
Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah.
Unrelated to Lecce, the Atalanta Como game got rescheduled for today, which is good to see Serie A doing it quickly. Normally, that game would wait until May to be played. So
completely waterlogged yesterday.
I mean,
it was awful.
My first thought was, but what about like the fans who would have travelled? But they're not that far apart.
No, they're very close together.
So,
40 minutes by train.
So that's a bit of entertainment for tonight. Look, it has to be a win, as Martino said. This absolutely has to be a win. With that victory against Inter, we've now climbed up not only in the top half, but into 7th, and we are 2 points off second place, 3 points off top. And considering the start that we had, no win in the first three games and 1 win in 5, it's remarkable that we're sort of still within firing range.
We gained ground on Juve the past 2 weeks. They've had 0-0 draws back-to-back weeks. We've gained 4 points in total on that. We're obviously level with Inter. Are they ahead because of differential? Is that what it is?
They're ahead because of goal difference, but of course, if they weren't to beat us in the return derby, then we would go above them on head.
Yeah.
Right, that's the tie. That's the tiebreaker for the end of season.
At the end of the season, that's
we would be ahead right now as well.
Yeah, because I was a little confused with that because I thought differential is like the 3rd tiebreaker. I think for the league.
It's just until teams start playing each other twice that the head-to-head comes in.
Obviously beating Inter's a huge game in itself, but the fact that we gained points on Inter, Juve, Napoli. I think Lazio as well.
I think Lazio.
If you look at the team, if you look at the table right now, it is very strange because you've got Torino leading on 11 points and they're unbeaten so far. And then you've got Napoli in second, who were the leaders prior to the draw in the last game. Udinese third. I mean, they're not going to stay up there. Most people had them as relegation candidates. Juve fourth, but they've scored 6 goals in 5 games and have drawn 3 in a row 0-0. Empoli in fifth. They're not going to stay up there, And then there's Inter, us, Lazio, Atalanta, and Roma, who have all started the season in very stuttering fashion. Fiorentina down in 12th, Bologna down in 13th. So it's a very strange table at the moment, and it feels like the vast majority of teams have struggled. Sorry.
Yeah, if you look at the top 10, you would think 6 through 10 was 1 through 5. It doesn't make any sense that Torino and Udinese and Empoli are top 5 teams at the moment. That's mind blowing. But
didn't
also
Udinese play in a relegation playoff last year?
I think they just stayed up. I don't think there was a playoff, was there?
Yeah, they stayed up.
So Margic was really the main reason as to why he bailed them out so many games. They were terrible. They're already off to a far better start than last year.
Yeah,
and Empoli have not had an easy schedule to start either. They had Roma, Bologna, and Juve in consecutive matches, and they came out with 5
Roma's
points
also
from
been
it.
dog shit though.
Roma's of course, but
yeah.
Strength is good. I have a question for you guys then, if that's okay. We have Leverkusen coming up next week as well, so it's sort of a quick turnaround. It's a huge game. How do we come out fielding with this 11? Because I know we talked about like you got to keep the same formation, you want to keep the same guys, some continuity, but do you think it's just you still start the same players and then maybe you have a quicker hook on some of them if you get a good lead and you're sitting a little comfortable with a
We
good
play
start?
Tuesday.
Yeah, we played
Yes,
Tuesday,
correct. Against Leverkusen, that's away as well. So we're performing against the Dark Arts if that one goes late. So they're inevitable.
Yeah,
that one's tough
again,
because they are notorious for scoring stoppage time goals, and if we make a bunch of subs, we're just up in that. I don't know how we're gonna go on that one, but I will preview it in full next week.
Hey, nice. I think that you've got to. We're still in a position where we need to rack up wins, of course, and I think that Fonseca should field the strongest team available.
Yeah,
and I think it helps with us playing on Friday night and it being Tuesday night. Your ideal is Friday, Wednesday, but this is like the second best because you've got 3 full days off between the games, and it's early in the season. Players should have a bit in the tank. They should be able to. We should be able to field
Leverkusen at Bayern as well.
Oh,
Saturday.
right, yes.
Jeez, that's a huge one then.
But I'm definitely more in the camp of let's do a Venezia and hopefully get the game over and done with early. And
I love 4 goals in 10 minutes.
That was good fun. I don't think I've ever seen an implosion like that from a team, to be honest. But
that was
do that. And let's do predictions for Lecce. I do think we're going to win this one. I'm not going to predict that we come crashing back down to earth or anything like that. However, I can't see us running riot like we did against Venezia, just because I think Lecce have shown that they can be frustrating in moments. Although I did say that about Venezia as well. I think we'll win 3-1.
I was going to say 3-0, and I think Leao gets a goal. I think Pulisic's going to continue his ways, and I feel like Morata is going to get back on the sheet here. So
I'm going to say 3-0 as well. All the same that AJ said, but I think Okafor is going to get one.
I'll go 4-1. I think we're gonna pour it on. Everybody's gonna have an opportunity in this one. I think we'll see heavy minutes from Chukwueze, and some of these other players, Okafor as well. I think I'll have a great chance. He's gonna look to make up for that terrible miss. And again, that would be 3 wins in a row, which is really good bounce back after that start.
We'll do a couple of questions and then wrap up. One of them. Was this comes from Boss85. Was this a fluke or are we back in the Scudetto race?
We're winning it.
Not back in it. The race is over.
Yeah, it's over. We won.
Forget about it.
I think because of the start of the season that everybody's had and the top of the table being so wonky, yes. But also, like, we're only 3 points off. Like, it's a long season.
Yeah, I think just because
we're out.
There were no perfect teams after week 2. It just shows how open this race is. I mean, you look at the top 10, like we said, 6 through 10 looks like a 1 through 5. So there's going to be a ton of shakeup still. Udinese is not staying up there. Empoli's not staying up there. Torino's not staying up there. Napoli and Juve might, but even that,
I think Napoli will.
I think Napoli will as well, and I think Juve is kind of going to take a dip if they can't score a goal here. So
they won't.
We'll see what happens. But going into the Inter match, all the talk was about Fonseca and how this is his final game, and he's a dead man walking. He's already lost his job. He'll be fired on Monday regardless. Well, Tuesday's here, and he's still our manager. So now all of a sudden the conversation's flipped, and it's wow, Inzaghi can't win a game anymore. He's doing really poor. What's going on with Lautaro? Everything's changed, and once that media narrative flips on you, it has an effect, especially for a team like Inter, who have notoriously always had the media on their side. It's always been that way. They've always had that backup. They've never had they may not have the court of public opinion, but they do in the media, and that's what you hear. So once that's gone, they're going to start crumbling, going, "What's going on with us? Why can't we get this working?" And then we're succeeding, and they're losing, and So yeah, the race is over. We've won.
And like Inter, don't get me wrong, Inter still could go on and win the league, and they still could win it convincingly. For all we know, they're a very good team, and 5 games is a small sample size. But also, Like the last few years in Serie A has been weird because we've had runaway Scudetto winners who have completely flopped the next season. You know,
Except for the year we win, of course. So.
Yeah, well, naturally.
We have to get a heart attack, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, nobody's defended. That none of the last 5 Scudetto winners have defended. So maybe that says something. Maybe they're prioritizing, you know, going even deeper in Europe after they lost in the final.
It's almost like their financials caught up to them.
Oh.
Can I just say, by the way, on the fluke side of things, I think this is the turnaround, because all we really need, in my opinion, I know it's kind of a big ask, is more balance. This team is going to create, they're going to score. Not sure if you saw the graphic on most goal contributions from ESPN since the start of last season. Leao and Pulisic are the leaders in that. And one of them had a 4-month goal drought. So, and strikers who could not finish opportunities. So Leao should be at that 40 mark. The amount of firepower that we've had, and we still haven't had Tammy fully integrated in yet and healthy. Same with Morata. We kind of had like makeshift strikers for almost half the season in Serie A now. If we just get that balance that we kind of had with the 4-4-2, this team can go deep. We finished second despite being half asleep for most of the year. We really just have to stabilize ourselves. If we have that capability, the way teams have been stumbling, Inter have certain expectations in the Champions League, I think, that they want to push further in because they really faltered last year. We have a spot here, and I hope we don't crash out of the Champions League. Say we do, there's no drop down to Europa League. You play out the rest of the Serie A season. There would be 1 match per week. There really is something to be said here, and watch us lose 2-1 on Friday. But I really do think if we just simply stabilize things and get a chance to integrate some of these youngsters, we could really get things turned around here. It's not completely out of the question. The schedule is going to soften up a little bit too.
What a difference a derby makes, eh? Yeah, we'll wrap it up there. It's been a roller coaster episode, as is just generally supporting this team, to be honest. But let's hope that we have indeed turned a corner. Fantastic to be celebrating a massive win for what feels like the first time in an eternity. And let's just hope everything calms down a little bit. No more of these sensationalist stories. And let's hope that we keep the momentum going on Friday. We'll be back, of course, early next week with another episode, and back later in the week with a bonus episode. So stay tuned for that. Go over to the Substack. You can try a week for free if you want to see how a week looks on there. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining. Mad Dog.
It was a good one. Glad I woke up.
Just generally. Pretty bad if you don't wake up. Martino, thank you very much for joining. I'm going to try to get you on more regularly. It's been too long since the last appearance, but no, cheers for coming on.
Love being on. We'll get some of these clips up, and hopefully our comment sections chill out a little bit. Unless you're ragging on Maddie, then I greenlight everything. No worries.
I feed off the hate, man. I love it.
That's how you wake up in the morning.
I'm like, oh, bring on the hate.
Yeah, Stefano's avocado press thing is now getting him a lot of hate, which is good to see. He's got too big for his boots. He needs cutting down a little bit with some threads.
Well, he stole that tweet. Don't go like when you see his tweet and go, "That's funny. I should like it." Just go to the original tweet. Look at the quotes. It was
who originally had it?
Some random Italian.
Yeah.
So a real Italian and a fake Italian stole it.
Oh god.
Exactly.
48,000 likes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We will catch you next week.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il mio cuore!